Gents, we're back, and a couple of changes. David, you've got your new house, and probably more importantly, Chris, Mr. Burns is a father. Congratulations.
Thank you. Cheers.
And with that comes a new level of maturity and insight, I'm sure.
Well, I don't know, 4 weeks in, so I don't know. Maybe we'll see. We'll see how this episode goes.
Time will tell.
We'll find out. The last time we did Overrated, Underrated as a format was 2 years ago, and we might revisit some of the stuff that we maybe covered last time round, but all kind of general concepts that we can go in on. And the first of those, to start on a big one, is marriage.
Who's kicking off, Chris?
Well, I'm the only one that's married here, so maybe I should kick off.
I actually forgot about that. Oh, on you go.
You forgot that? You were at my wedding all day.
And it was a great wedding.
Yeah.
Phenomenal wedding,
There
to
you
be
go.
fair.
I think it's overrated.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I think that the take I've got in this is people use marriage as a bit of a crutch. Like, I just need to get married, and they don't really understand what marriage really means and what it stands for. You know, I've got a phenomenal marriage. I couldn't have found a better person to be married to, and a life partner and everything that goes along with that.
Yeah.
But I think that so many people rush into it, and that's why you probably see so many, like, the divorce rate getting higher and higher and higher.
Yeah.
Because people just rush into anything like, oh, once I'm married, then that's kind of my life set and I'm secure in this. And you just marry the wrong person. You know, you just get into you get into a relationship that you just shouldn't be in, and marriage just complicates that massively.
Yeah.
So I do think it's overrated.
It's like a ticker box, I think, nowadays.
Yeah.
It's like what you do. It's like, that's what I do at the age of between 25 and 35. I think that's like genuinely a thing. Like, people are like, oh fuck, well, I may as well get married. So, well, do you love the person? Do you want to spend the rest of your life with them? I'll figure that out later. It's like, no, that's maybe what you want to like fucking work on first.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's the circles we're mixing in, because I'm of the opinion it's underrated because societally, one, it's declining in terms of number of people getting married, but two, obviously we're getting those failed marriages in terms of divorce rates and all the downstream effects that come from that as well. So I wonder whether it's the echo chambers or parts of society that we're spending time in that we're seeing people habitually get married.
Your parents are both still together?
Yeah, correct.
Ours are both separated.
Come from a broken home.
Oh no, same. My dad left my mum. I wonder if that actually affects, because I think it's overrated too.
But interestingly, you both ended up being raised by
stepdads.
Yeah.
Technically, yeah. For like a lot of not raised by my stepdad, but nah, definitely like.
You ended up in a nuclear home
had
again.
To an extent, but nah, actually, because I was
Because your dad.
I was 18 by the time my mum get like remarried. So.
All right. See, I grew up with 4 parents. So I don't know any different. So I was a bit different there because my mum and dad were never. I've never known them to be together.
Yep.
Mum was 16. Mum and dad were 16 when I was born, and then so from when I can remember, my step must be my stepmom, my stepdad's my stepdad. So I've kind of grown up with 4 parents now. So that's been a bit different. And I was at my mum and my stepdad's wedding, and my dad and my stepmom's wedding. So I think like what you're saying, I think that the concept of marriage is underrated. But I think getting married,
the implementation of it is
is overrated.
It's an expensive piss up, really, isn't it?
Yeah, because I totally agree with you about like.
Not for you.
Not for me. No, Diet Coke's on it. I totally agree with you about like people don't really see some people are kind of poo-pooing marriage now as if like it's not really a big deal anymore, and obviously the breakdown or like kind of the unit that goes along with it, family units and stuff. Totally agree with that, but I think a lot of people just rush into it and just think it's going to be this, like, even you I'm sure we all know people around this table who have been in relationships. You're just like, you two are so wrong for each other,
and then one of them gets
in the next minute
the proposal. You
see it, it's Christmas Day and the guy's down on one knee underneath the tree, and you're like, oh, here we fucking go.
They're on that fast track lifestyle where it's like, we need to get a mortgage, we'll get a dog, and we'll just get married.
And it's kids, and then it's this, you know.
I also think people are so quick to get divorced nowadays as well, though. Like, if I look at my dad's parents, fucking hated each other, but they stayed married because that was the thing to do. Whereas nowadays, I think people have a bit of a wobble in a marriage or in a relationship in general, and they're like, it's over. And I think that comes down to like options nowadays versus back then. Like, my granddad didn't have options, so it was like it was a financial prison from that perspective, which is
that's why, like, if you look at the people pushing back against marriage now, it's actually really interesting. It's coming from both sides. It's coming from the left, who are saying it's a patriarchal construct that's oppressing women, and from the right, they're being like, oh, financially, guys, you're screwing yourselves because you're going to have to give her 50%, and you're thinking, this is really toxic from both sides. Because what made me put this on the list was I listened to an episode of Modern Wisdom with a guy called Brad Wilcox. I've just reached out to him to come on the show. He wrote a book kind of in defence of marriage, and some of the stats he shared about the benefits of marriage are absolutely huge. And it's not like the kind of things that you would immediately think, well, some of these you would immediately think of, but you live longer, 8 to 9 years on average. mostly because guys are like behaving in a lower risk way.
Is that marriage, or is that being with one person? Do you know what I mean? Like, was it actually specifically
so that's true.
being
so
married?
Specifically married, but this is what is interesting. Nowadays, you have relationships that are marriage in all but name, which I am largely in favour of. But I do believe there is an element of ceremony and connection, albeit you're making a contract with the state as well, which is something that not a lot of people want to do too. And equally with the decline in religion, we're seeing a lot less.
Yeah, there's a lot more humanist. Is that humanist? Humanist.
There's a lot of that, isn't there? I think it's weird. You know, you're saying about like you say there, David, about people getting divorced more, and like because they think they've got more options. Like there's an upside and a downside to that, isn't there? Because you don't want people stuck in a relationship. Because I'm sure people stayed married that they should never have stayed in. But then also it's like, is it also just becoming too easy to not put the work in? And 100%. You know, maybe if you push through this, you would get through it, and you'd have an even better marriage. But I think it's a weird one, that, isn't it?
It was the happiness stats that shocked me as well. I looked into it, and the average man or woman is twice as likely to report themselves as being happy. That's mostly between the ages of 18 and 55, so there's a drop off after 55 for whatever reason. Maybe you've been with them for too long. But that was like a huge study in the US, the General Social Survey. And if you're married as a man or woman, you're twice as likely to report happiness. And happiness is something that a lot of us are looking for. And if the stability of a relationship and a dependable partner that you have a good dynamic with is that, and that makes sense, because I look at both your relationships and I see you as people that are happy in relationships, and I think they contribute to your happiness.
100%, yeah, absolutely.
And you're married, Chris, and it just looks to me like, oh, that's how it should be structured.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think like it's hard though, isn't it? Because like it's such a personal thing. Like you've got relationship dynamics. You've got like what was your relationship like? How did you get together? Like my marriage, me and Jill share everything in terms of like we run a business together. Our whole lives are built together. Like everything from career, the whole 9 yards. So like that's quite. I would say that's quite rare in a way. You know, to share your business, and that splits all the way down the middle in terms of like money and all these big life decisions. It's all made together, so that brings us a lot closer and stuff. So yeah, it's my personal experience with marriage has been nothing but positive, and I couldn't wait to marry Jill. Couldn't wait to have the actual wedding day and everything it stood for. But equally, I can totally understand why people would be a bit hesitant to get married as well, for the reasons that you've stated in terms of like, well, you know, there's a lot that goes along with it as well, and I think that it's probably a bit of both. Yeah,
I just think when I look from the outside in, and I suppose with the family experience that I've had and the stats that you see in terms of the ability to support a child's development through a stable home, I think it's inarguably the preferred structure for families, ideally. But that's really difficult, and I've got an interview coming up with Rob Henderson, who wrote Troubled, and he came from a very broken home, lived in like 7 different foster homes, and he said he would swap his top 1% academic achievement with Harvard, Yale, Cambridge for like a stable family in his upbringing. And some of the stats that he shares in terms of how much more beneficial it is to come from a stable home background even versus income is absolutely wild in terms of your outcomes as well, which I find fascinating. And I think there's like where you've got so much content that's pushing back against marriage, or even just like stable monogamy, where it's pushing back against that, I think there's like a need to push back. I don't get that. See, to pick up what you're saying, that Jill volunteered for the children's panel for 2 years, so she sat on hearings, and some of the stuff that she saw, you're just like, but what, to your point, like pretty much every single child that came in front of that children's panel just didn't have a stable home. They didn't have a mum and a dad in the home, or two sort of, they were maybe like getting farmed out to grandparents, and the one parent was kind of absent. They were kind of coming in and out of their lives. It's just this chaos, which is probably even more disruptive.
Yeah, exactly, because they don't, I mean, I don't know what that's, I've got no expertise in that area, but I can only imagine the feeling of like rejection and confusion when you all know what you're like when you're growing up and especially going through your formative years. So Jill used to see that all the time, but that was the one theme across the board, like boys and girls in all different ages. They would with serious behavioural issues, mum and dad weren't on the scene, you know, or it was very, very dysfunctional if they were. So yeah, there's definitely something to be said for that unit staying together for the child and the stability of it. Yeah,
my own opinion is it's underrated as the vehicle that people could benefit from as a family unit, but I understand from an overrated perspective in terms of, it's a really costly ceremony, it's a contract, and are we just rushing into this because it's a box to tick because society's pressuring on it? But equally, I think society's also not pressuring in some ways.
I think that's fair.
Number 2, crypto. exciting time to talk about it as well.
Yeah, I'll be completely honest. My knowledge on crypto is minimal. My view on it is that it's no, you don't. Colin probably does.
I don't. Colin
my view is that it's massively overrated, just based on how volatile it is and based on how many other more stable investments there are. I think there's such an emphasis on. I think it's just an exciting thing, especially with what it's doing right now. I think young people specifically, are getting so drawn into investing in crypto before they're investing in any other aspect of their life, even their own like actual personal development
and ability to earn money, which
I know a lot of business owners that need to invest in their businesses and are more concerned about investing in crypto than they are investing in any aspect of their own business, and I just think that's fucking wild. Equally, I'm sure there's people that have done that and been, crypto millionaires, whatever else. There's all these stories, but massively overrated in my eyes. I know that the Crypto Glasgow boys will be listening to this being like, what the fuck, but massively overrated for me.
Yeah,
as much as I have crypto, sold some this week, massively overrated.
Yeah, Chris, how you feel about it?
Yeah, look, I completely agree. Me and Dave, very similar on this. I don't really know a lot about it. I've got crypto, invested in it, made a bit of money off of it, but it's overrated, and for the same reasons. It kind of taps into that lizard brain too much and gets people to bypass things that are really going to have long-term success. Because, and again, I think when you look at a lot of guys that have, and this is just my experience, when you look at a lot of guys like the Crypto Glasgow guys, they've been deep. I know you've had them on the show multiple times. They've been deep into crypto for people.
Since 2018.
I remember hearing their story, people laughing at them for investing in it, and now look at them and I just think like the people who jump into crypto, they often dismiss the level of expertise some guys have and the amount of research they put in, the time they've had in the market and stuff, and they just chase that, like just now when Bitcoin's thriving and is going up and up and up, and they're jumping on that bandwagon, and then like you rarely hear about the crashes afterwards, because people, the one thing that really used to wind me up about crypto, I see a few business people that I've followed on Instagram and stuff, and they'd be like, crypto this, crypto that in their bio, I've got a crypto hedge fund, and I've got a crypto course, and I've got a crypto this, crypto that. The second Bitcoin started going down, their bio changed overnight.
They became an AI expert probably.
Web3. It's AI, or it was back to what they were doing before crypto was on the up, and you're just like, that's another reason why I believe it's over, because it's so easy to get scammed. There's very few, I would say, legitimate operators out there, and you're going in, and even if you're giving them their money to invest, just buying their products or services, you don't know what you're getting here, so overrated.
It's very unregulated still though, isn't it, as well?
And that's one of the benefits of it, but also one of the downsides of it, because you can be exposed to so much. It's still such a young industry without the regulation too, that there are still so many scams, but also stuff that was like held up as legitimate, like some of these high yielding coins, like Luna would be an example, Celsius, like the Sam Bankman-Fried were deemed to be like good actors in the space, and people lost thousands, maybe millions, depending on how much exposure you had. So I think it's overrated from the perspective of it's very tempting for people to just dive in, as you say, and get horrendously burnt, or burnt enough that they never revisit it. For me, in terms of an asset class, it's underrated in terms of the percentage you can unlock if you have a long enough time frame, or you have a time frame which you recognize. So David's mentioned that he bought in when it was on sale. He used to joke about it on his Instagram, I think it's on sale just now, I'll keep buying it. You bought when people were telling you Bitcoin's crap, people were removing crypto from the bio, nobody was talking about it. But now it's come back round, you've decided to sell because you're winning. The guy that's asking you about it in the queue at the supermarket, or the barista at Starbucks, or the taxi driver, if they're wanting to talk to you about it, that's a sign that it's starting to get near its top, and you're starting to be like, right, okay, well, I was investing when it was in the doldrums.
It's actually the investment of mine that I've made the most money on, but I still think it's massively overrated.
The percentage that I've made in crypto is so much better than all my standard stocks and shares.
I think like there's a quote by somebody that says, as an old investor, it might have been Rockefeller.
When the tide cocomes out.
No, it's not the tide comes out who's swimming naked. That's Warren Buffett. It's when the shoe shine boy starts telling you about stocks and shares, that's when you get out of the market. And I think now everybody's talking about crypto, aren't they? And they're just like, do you know what? A lot of guys it's just betting. That's all you're doing. You're just betting. You've got an app and you're sticking money on it. But I would agree in terms of like, it's the part of crypto that's underrated. We're supposed to be doing overrated, underrated. We're saying that everything's both. But anyway, the part of crypto that's underrated.
There's nuance.
Is I think the concept of it, because generally speaking, when I see old fuddy-duddy guys from financial institutions getting uncomfortable, I think that's quite a good sign, because that tells you like something new's coming along
totally.
that's going to have a positive impact on the world. You go back, you look at quotes on the internet, it's just a fad and all, I think when that change is coming through, I think when those voices that are maybe like the CEO of some hedge fund and they're about 85 years old, some mad old lizard is complaining about it, I think that's probably that's a good sign for me.
Yeah, that's what's funny. I think at the moment the technology behind a lot of the coins and the use cases is overrated by some because it's not in action yet, but it will be underrated in the future because of what it might unlock. So for example, I'm very bullish on a coin called XRP, where it's all about the kind of transfer of funds across the world seamlessly without fees, which is great. But I actually invested in that coin because I want to make money from it. Not because of the technology.
Right now.
Bitcoin as an asset class for me is not a currency for a future world currency for people. I'm using it to get percentage gains and sell out and then buy back in when it dips and accumulate it, which is great. But people are maybe like, but the blockchain and stuff like that, and I'm like, that's fantastic and I love what it might end up doing.
Hopefully.
But right now I'm investing for fiscal reward and return, and I think if you mix up these two, or you maybe talk yourself into being like, I'm all about the
like ideological, you believe in the mission, like just be honest, man. If you're in it to make cash, just 100%, because that'll inform your decision making.
But it is eye watering. When I was like, I sat in losses for like 2.5 years, buying in, getting my average buy down on Bitcoin and a few other coins, and then in the last 3-4 weeks, like 150+% on coins. The S&P 500, which is a good tracker by all means, and this is not financial advice. I've looked at that in times it's been like 20% for me. I've been like, that's really good, but that pisses all over it. Which that's why people turn their head to it. But when they're asking you about it, it's already done 150%. So if you're buying Bitcoin today at 73,000 for the record, are you really getting the value that I was getting when I was buying it like 18, 19, 20? David bought it for like 30 odd or whatever. It's a lot to think about. Number 3, I'm just ready for Chris. Getting info from podcasts.
Overrated.
I'm going underrated.
I think it's underrated. Absolutely.
Do you know why people?
Funny, David.
Do you know why people would maybe consider? Gonna flip the desk. Yeah. For those that are watching on YouTube, David's throwing his toys at the pram. The reason this was included is a few developments have happened in the podcast space, and in particular, a viral video by James Smith calling out a number of different podcasts and the challenge for people getting all their information from podcasts and taking everything at 100% face value. He had the number that he called out. I'm sure you can guess who he was aiming that at. And he actually aimed at some at Huberman as well, because there was a couple of studies that
Aaron pure hates Huberman now. Have you ever spoke to him about Huberman?
Yeah, I've been really surprised by that.
He's such a hater. I think he mentioned one thing about back pain, and Aaron was like, he's wrong about everything. Sorry, Aaron.
But for me, I think it's underrated because of the platform that you can create and the amount of value you can get from like an hour with an expert. But equally, I will say that there's no way that as a host, without the frequency of content I upload and people who have much more high profile shows than mine, it's really difficult to vet all the information covered in that conversation and to think it all stands up. So as a listener, you should get your information from podcasts 100%, but don't take everything at 100% verbatim, because it's very unlikely. Something might slip. There might be a slip of the tongue as well, and this guy who's delivered this information might have put something across, or somebody might be out to sell you something and will put something across in a particular way. I think also like a lot of the things are what they're trying to say are factual, but a lot of it's just opinion based, but it's coming from a doctor or it's coming from someone else. But I think sometimes when you have that level of intellect, or you've got a degree or whatever else, I think sometimes their opinions get confused for facts to an extent, and they're not actually facts, they're just their opinions on it, and then people are like, well, that's fucking wrong. And it must be incredibly hard, I think, being of that status, going on shows, because you really can't nowadays step out of line without somebody calling you out. Like, you know what it's like, you'll have found it in every TikTok especially, but there's certain things you can't say
without. I get rinsed for saying elf was shit.
Remember that?
Aye, some guy.
You had a lot of people agreeing though.
A lot of people agreed with me. Aye, some guy said they were shite at rugby. I remember that comment.
That was so funny because you obviously knew you, but then had
won the double last year, mate. Badgers won the double. Shut
the
up.
Cumberland old Dan Carter.
There you go. I totally agree. See that whole thing about, like, you know, misinformation, because obviously it's been a big thing about like getting info from podcasts, especially in the kind of health space and stuff. And look, James Smith is doing the right thing by his audience, because that's his kind of shtick, isn't it? That's what he does. But like, you've got to work in, and this is probably on your bingo. People have to do a shot for personal responsibility being mentioned on Colin's podcast, but it's so true. Like, if you get information, if you just take that as verbatim and then go and apply it, it's like, well, you've got to be held accountable to some degree, don't you? Like, like I've done a lot of silly things with my health and fitness over the years, albeit I was a lot younger and it didn't really affect me that much. But if you're going to just take something that somebody says verbatim off a podcast about like nutrition or anything at all, and just go and blindly apply it, I'm sorry, you've got to.
Those
got
people
to
are the problem.
That's it. You're so impressionable and so easily led that you can just listen to a podcast and go and change your whole lifestyle. Like, mental.
I look at it from a client perspective, and I suppose I'm viewed as a authority within that field, and clients question stuff with me sometimes. They're like, oh, why don't I need to do this? And I'm like, great that you're asking. Like, that's exactly what I want. I heard I need to be doing it this way, or I heard I need to do it intermittent fasting or keto or whatever else. I'm like, well, try it this way. This is my opinion on why that works. There's also a ton of fucking data on why it works, but I think it's the people that are the problem, that are the people that will be like, that is all I'm going to listen to, and I'm going to follow that till later. It's like, well, maybe go elsewhere for information and see like different opinions. And I think that's hard in this space, because a lot of people will follow very right-wing podcasts or very left-wing podcasts, and then you are only getting exposed. I mean, nowadays it's even harder, because the algorithm sends you exactly what you've consumed, and you get more and more of that. So
or something that's going to trigger you as well. One of the two. I mean, that's why TikTok is so mad, because it's sending stuff that, like, my self-development content getting pushed to people who want to sit in their bed all day and like earn universal credit or something. And I'm just like, oh, we're not going to get on, are we? But also the progressives are like the least tolerant of like any views that's not their own at that point. And I'm like, oh, this is really interesting to observe. The last time we met, we spoke about standing on the shoulders of giants, which is all about the access to information that we have nowadays, which is so fortunate. If I look at the health and fitness information that we had access to when we started training, it was so bad.
Bodybuilding.com.
Mate.
Simply Shredded.
Men's health.
So to be able to tap into Huberman or some of the guests that I've had, or some of the guests that are on whatever show you like, you're really fortunate. You just have to still cherry pick, in the same way we had to cherry pick from some of the stuff on YouTube or some of the stuff on bodybuilding.com.
It's funny you say that. I was in an event last Friday, and there was some really good speakers, and there were some speakers that weren't as good type thing. And I actually said to one of the guys that I was speaking to after, he asked me what I thought of it, and I was like, yeah, it was good, some good, some bad type thing. And I was like, do you know what? I actually think nowadays I struggle to like go to some of these events and listen to people, because you're so exposed to amazing speakers through things like podcasts. So maybe I've like overconsumed Hormozy. I'll bring him up, take a shot. Hey. Somebody like that, like who I've listened to an insane amount of hours of him speaking, presenting, delivering things. Not just him, but other people in that space. And then you're maybe exposed to someone not of that level. So I think like the access that you get to these type of people, you wouldn't have had 10 years ago. The information that you're able to get through podcasts, YouTube as well, like that kind of combination of both. Like, it's fucking insane. It's just like you need to know where to go for these. Yeah, exactly. You need to know where to go for these things. There might be stuff that
Hormozy says that you're like, brilliant, but then there might be stuff he says about work-life balance that you're like, whoa, I don't know if I can live like that. Or he might say something about marriage, for example, and you don't resonate with it.
Sure.
And that's fine. But people are potentially being exposed to snake oil salesman on really large platforms podcast, and that's why James Smith was like kicking off, because some of the nutrition stuff that's been pushed by Diary of a CEO in particular has been
let's be honest, by any mainstream magazine it's been the same for 50 years, so I don't think it's never going to change. There's always somebody selling bullshit, 100%. Like always. Now it's just moved from newspapers, magazines to podcasts. Like that's really what it is.
It's the new printing press. It really is,
for sure.
And I just think as a host there's a relative level of responsibility I've got, while also understanding that I cannot vet every single thing that somebody says. Equally, I don't agree with everything that every single guest says.
This is our thing. Like your podcast is a conversational podcast. You have guests on, you ask them insightful questions. Like your research is next level whenever you have people on. Like that is the style of show that you've set out. Like you don't have a confrontational podcast. Like some podcasts they get that the host will go back, like Dingwee's podcast there, like what's his name again? Patrick Bet-David, Infotainment. His podcast, he does a lot of politics and culture and stuff like that.
Heated moments.
He's really heated and he pushes back on guests. But like honestly, like, and I am no fan of Mr. Bartlett. I've made that very clear. Right, I'm not a fan of him. I'm not a fan of his podcast. But his podcast is his podcast. It's his rule. So if he's decided the kind of angle of this podcast is me just letting the guest run with it, asking a few questions and not pushing back, I don't think a host has any duty to push back. If they've decided this isn't the vibe of my podcast, I don't have, because that might then cut off future guests for them that might not come on, and they don't want to do that. So I think that's fair.
He
enough.
also runs it as a business, and that's one of the things that James Smith was talking about. And like, he has shares in Huel or Zoe or whatever else as well, and ultimately the ad revenue is higher if you get something that gets more views. So what might you just get more views? Get somebody mad.
Does he have shares in Huel? Should probably talk about it more.
You almost got me again there. Yeah, he does. Have you not seen any of his episodes?
Have you not seen the ad that follows you around the internet? I mean, whoever does his ads is...
Yeah, I mean,
his team's phenomenal, let's be honest. His marketing team's fucking insane. I think they split test more than any other YouTuber other than Mr. Beast, I think.
Yeah.
Nuts. Like 12 different thumbnails and stuff like that, which is absolutely mad. But then that's interesting. What are you optimizing for? Because for me, I'm optimizing for value for the audience, not sensationalism. So I'm not going to have a guy on that tells you that calories don't exist because it just doesn't align with my values. But as you say, the audience can vote with their feet in their ears. If they really don't like the direction that's going, then they don't have to listen. And he's growing still, so look.
Have you had many guests that you
disagree with?
Massively disagree on things, or has it been kind of just small points, or whatever?
Not massively, like small points. Equally, when somebody says a lot in a few sentences, you have to pick what point you want to carry on, not just, and it'd be really difficult to be like, oh, and see 5 minutes ago when you said this, can we just go back to that, and I want to disagree with you on it, because one, it doesn't make for a good listening experience, and two, it makes for a really fragmented conversation. And if somebody said something absolutely heinous, it's actually quite difficult. Like, you should try and challenge it if you can, but within the realms of like freedom of speech and opinion, I'm not presenting it as fact. But I think in terms of summarising number 3, I think it's underrated, the info you can get, but it's overrated if you take everything like...
Every one of these is underrated and overrated.
We've got too much news.
That's the theme.
I suppose that's what it is.
Let's get off the fence with this one. And David said, are we seriously going to cover this? And that is no fap.
I didn't know what it was.
I don't really know much about this either. Genuinely, I don't really know much about this.
Oh, it's just is it not like No Nut November? No.
Is it?
But all
like
the time.
Never. So it's basically not masturbating for any of the audience that don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I don't think you've got much female listeners, do you?
A mixture of maybe 80-20 male female.
Right. Yeah. So it's just it's no. Does it not get ties to like the whole red pill movement? Is that not like a thing?
Yeah,
like,
to some extent.
Like,
it's largely guys that are normally porn addicted, so it's got a big link to like a no porn movement.
Right, okay.
So I think no porn is underrated, but I think no fap itself is overrated. Yeah, because I mean, I've had a few guests that have had porn addictions and sex addictions, and they definitely say that refraining from that is helpful.
Right, okay.
But no fap itself, again, Huberman, and I think I want to say Derek More Plates, More Dates have done quite a lot of content on this.
That's where I've seen content on it.
Interestingly enough, it has quite big benefits for focus and for natural testosterone production, which I think we're all interested in. From that perspective. Just interviewed Lucas Sohan, who Chris knows, and that was a really good conversation in terms of understanding what's going on with men's testosterone. But it peaks your testosterone if you were not to masturbate, or I think actually orgasm or climax at all, for a week. It peaks at its natural point, but thereafter it just stays level.
You're a child. Sorry, you said orgasm.
I just love hearing Colin talk about that stuff. I don't know why.
You didn't know it was coming.
No.
But so there are big benefits in that first week where your natural testosterone responds. But I think a lot of the no fap movement is coming from guys stopping something that's pathological and is taking up hours of their day or interrupting their lifestyle.
Hours?
Yeah, no.
I think so.
That is mental. It only takes me about 4 minutes. I think
it's in his Google calendar.
I honestly think like anything, it's like moderation. If it's not disturbing your life, I don't think it needs to be a focus point. Like, it's something that's happened for years. I think it'll be something that continues to happen.
Unless it's like harming your relationships in some way,
spending hours doing it.
If you spend your hours doing it, first of all, you're doing it wrong,
and you've got a huge forearm.
You want to be like Popeye. Like, no, I based on what you just said, then I would say it's overrated. I would say.
I think for a sect of the world, they're really struggling with that problem, and I think a
yeah.
lot of young men who've grown up in the internet age more so than we have in terms of the amount of screen time they've had. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like, I didn't have like a phone that could have that type of video on it
I say
till
that's
I
all
was
the
a lot
time.
older.
See, if
Yeah.
you look at like back in the day, like the only access you'd get to like porny stuff was like your dad's Playboy magazine, if you had one. Nowadays, you quite literally open up a phone and you can get pretty much full nakedness
Well, TikTok
on Instagram
and,
now, like full
X
naked.
are pretty
So
explicit.
you used to have to search for it, or like buy a magazine or whatever else, or
Yeah.
fucking watch a
It's an
video.
access thing, isn't it?
Oh, it's
And
madness!
that's
Like what
why
pops up on your phone now.
I think a lot of people are ending up more addicted or habituated to it because of these things.
Jordan Peterson actually, he was speaking once about you see more naked women on your phone in a day now than most men 10 years ago seen in a lifetime, which is fucking nuts. Or like in a year or whatever,
That
like
makes
you see
sense.
more, and it's actually kind of nuts. That
That's mad.
yeah.
It is, but yeah, having spoken to people who've been addicted in that space and knowing the amount of young men that are suffering with it, I don't think the no fap movement is the be all and the end all, because like masturbating is quite a natural thing, but limiting your exposure or having no exposure at all to porn is a big thing as well, because
Yeah.
I've heard people talk about
that seems to be
like, and also because of the access they've got, the extremity of what people are watching is
just
adapting.
chasing
Well,
the
Yeah.
like,
David likes to steal Tony Robbins' quote.
I thought you were going to talk about my porn selection there.
Well, I don't
David
know. I don't know.
likes,
David likes to watch Tony Robbins part.
Progress is happiness.
Tony Robbins bukkake.
That's the clip. Cut that. But you use that quote, "Progress is happiness." People are progressive beings, and it's the same with the what they view.
Yeah.
In order to
Actually,
what's going to
escalates,
satisfy.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
You get that. It's the same with anything else.
There's a writer I think you probably like, Mary Harrington.
Yeah.
Have you read her stuff? She's got a law of fap entropy, and she talks about basically what's a law of fap entropy. So what you start watching is not what you finish watching
Right.
over a 5-year period, and guys are exposing themselves to like the most like niche weird fetishes and almost like building like really unusual requirements, and I think those are the guys that we need to like remove from this situation.
Well, there's a big thing about people not being able to perform in the bedroom based on how much porn they consume. Like they can't get boners because they're so used to watching this weird fucked up stuff. So when an actual real life sex situation happens, they're like, fuck
It doesn't tick their boxes.
I need to think of, somebody stuck
piss on me.
2 arms in a car, they're being shit on, and they're like, right, okay, right,
Go.
But the next one leads into this, I think.
Yeah, it does, and that's Tonka Ali, which is a supplement in the testosterone boosting space.
I've got zero experience. I've never taken it. Alex Caldwell takes it and loves it. Apparently,
I love it. I take it.
Yeah,
I take it.
How's the morning wood?
Aye. Pitching tents every morning, but no, it's good.
Do you notice a difference? Like,
I
actually,
genuinely, honestly, and I'll be
You've got more experience than me because for the listeners' benefit, I've been having it for 7 weeks.
Right.
Had a really good conversation with Lucas, which I'll refer people back to. But Chris has been a long-term user.
and I'll be honest, I used it because I heard Andrew Huberman say it in a podcast. And because again,
You learn information from a podcast.
I did, yes, and it benefited me because, and also I'm an adult who was able to go, what's the risk reward here? I found like good quality, good high quality Tonga Ali, and I thought, do you know what? I'll buy 8 weeks worth and I'll see how I feel.
Yeah.
And if I don't feel any different, I'll just patch it, and I don't think I'm going to have any adverse side effects. And I didn't, and I've taken it ever since. Moved the microphone there. And yeah, I think it's a really, really powerful supplement. I think it really, I felt a difference in terms of like, I know it sounds quite generic, but overall energy, mental clarity,
Drive is the big one.
was big, especially in the morning. Like when I got up, like I've never been, I would never say I've been groggy in the morning, but as soon as I woke up, I felt like, right, I'm switched on here. So yeah, I rate it.
Interesting.
And this is in a backdrop of men's testosterone levels falling naturally at about 1% per year due to the
From the age of
environmental
30 or in
factors.
general?
In general now.
Right, okay.
Mad stat. If that continues by about 2035,
We'll have tits.
most of the men in the world will be infertile. If your testosterone keeps falling,
That's wild.
infertile.
Wow.
I'm going to freeze
Wild.
my eggs.
You'll be fine. You'll be doing something about your test. But yeah, in terms of for me, Tonka Ali, really well studied now, and we've got enough data, both anecdotally and in terms of the kind of thought leaders that we get access to say that it checks out.
Yeah.
It is stacked as a stack though with Fiducia agrestis,
Yeah.
and sometimes ashwagandha, although apparently ashwagandha can have some interesting mental health implications for men and make you feel distant and detached. And there's a Derek More Plates More Dates supplement, Sigma Mind, has ashwagandha in it, and it says after 4 weeks you must take a week cycle off it, because the ashwagandha can basically make you distant during that period and like detached, emotionally, basically numb. Wild.
But yeah,
it's got a lot of data now. I had a lot of questions about it off the back of the episode with Lucas, Alex Caldwell, who works with David, big fan, Chris, big fan. And
I'm gonna get on
personally,
board.
I've enjoyed it as well. And I don't think there's any downsides. I think the only risk is if you are somebody that is potentially quite an aggressive person, increasing your testosterone levels could lead to that blowing over. Not in the same way, it's not roid rage, but if you're that predisposed, that can be the case. You can be irritable, basically.
Have you taken anything else for testosterone? Have you ever tried anything
That's
else?
been the only thing for me.
No, I've not. No,
So I took Catawba and Cistange, which...
I took Catawba.
Yeah.
And sorry, I'm totally lying.
Both of them.
Because I've taken both those things. Yes, sorry.
Jake
I've
Carter.
never taken
I've taken
any
anything else.
else.
I've taken everything you just said.
It was
Jake
Carter. I remember when I was working with him, short period.
he's
He's like
advanced.
the world's smartest, like,
Suspension
on
in your
stuff like
pants.
that. I noticed the difference on that. Like, probably a very similar benefit.
Yeah.
You stopped?
I remember that. No, I still take Catawba, but Cistange, I don't think you can get it. I had to get it off
I got it off,
AliExpress or Alibaba.
Legit, no, you can get it. Because
Right.
I got it off of... it was easy to get.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Because there was a time I bought loads of supplements off of, I think it was genuinely Alibaba, and they came in what looked like
It was like
a bag of gear.
No, it was like just Silk Road. I remember you showing me a picture. You showed me a picture.
What the fuck is this?
Aye.
I bought that, melatonin, and like those three supplements, melatonin, Cistange, and Catawba. And I was like,
Melatonin's a lot to
can I
play
take
with.
these? They're quite literally from a random supplement shop, zero branding on it. I was like, try it. try every month.
Let's see what happens. Melatonin, though, you mentioned that's a powerful thing to be playing
Took
with.
that short term, and then again, it was actually Jake Carter that recommended that. I don't know if he would have changed his mind on that now, because I know Hugh Rorman's dove deep into that, and you're not really meant to.
If you start to
supplement with it.
become reliant on that, it's a big issue.
Good for like long haul flights, things like that. If you're changing time zones, can be
You can
very
get into that
beneficial
system,
for
yeah.
using
One thing
that.
I will never need is any supplements related to sleep.
Nah.
Yeah. Like a light.
Every night.
So I'm too, but like
Out
I'm the exact same. Like I sleep really well, but sometimes I'll take glycine and I get a better, deeper sleep. Not only like I wake up groggier for sure when I take it.
Oh,
but
really?
if I know I'm like I really want a good sleep, maybe I want a little bit, I feel like I want to be more recovered or whatever else.
Yeah.
I'll take that. And the only downside of that, because I've noticed a much bigger benefit from taking glycine than I have ashwagandha, ZMA, any other sleep supplements, because I've tried most supplements at some point.
Yeah.
Glycine by far, Kirsty's the same. If she like feels like or we're gonna get less sleep and I want a deeper, better sleep, glycine's phenomenal. 3 milligram of that is class. Or 3 grams of that, sorry.
You really notice it.
Yeah, for sure.
Number 6, Hyrox, the talk of the town.
Hey.
I mean, none of us have done it, and I feel like we're all probably similar on it. I'm gonna go overrated just based on the fucking hype around it. Equally, I think it's phenomenal from a business perspective. Unbelievable. I think for the amount of people that's got into fitness, great. I feel it's overrated largely just the hype around something so simple, but also that's why I respect it so much from a business perspective, because it's class in that sense.
Yeah, I think you've got to take your hat off to what they've built.
Yeah.
But at the same time, people, depending on what your fitness goal is, I feel people can be swept along by the hype of it just now.
Yeah.
And if you've got like a body composition goal or like a strength goal or something like that, and you've suddenly decided that Hyrox is your thing, keep your eye on the ball and don't get shiny object syndrome. And that's something that's such a risk in many regards in life. Like crypto we mentioned earlier, people take their eye off the ball in terms of building their business or building their normal investment portfolio. I think a lot of people have been like, whoa, Hyrox is the new thing, I need to go after
I
this.
do wonder if it's like when I was 20 to 24, Tough Mudder was like the thing. Everyone did a Tough Mudder. I don't know if that's a little bit different, because Tough Mudder's not they market it as not a race. Like it's, everyone comes and does it together for charity or whatever else. I think one of the biggest draws to it is that people want something to compete in. I think when you leave school, you lose. Like you've obviously kept playing rugby, but like most people, unless you play football or rugby, largely most people stop sport after school. Like the vast majority, I would have said. And I think it's like a competitive outlet for people. So I think that's one of the biggest draws to it, and it's the thing that like if I do it, that would be why I done it, to like compete against other people,
To give yourself
and to see
that
other people
push.
that are like doing well, I'm like I think I could do better than them.
Yeah.
because I'm naively like
Well, when you started running again, you got rid of weight.
I'm fucking glass at running.
Well, you have to run 8k, which I think a lot of people forget.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people don't realise that there's more running
Yeah.
involved than
Them-
you
I've
expect.
done like
the
a
clips?
test of it. I mean, my client Jaden done like a test, and see, if I'm being honest, like cool, it's kind of hardish, but like I was just fucking bored. Like I thought it was incredibly boring.
Really?
Like none of the exercises, in my opinion, are challenging. None of the weights are incredibly challenging.
Is his leg
Equally,
not pretty
under
heavy?
complete fatigue, of course, it's fucking challenging. I'm not saying that.
But you know, that's a
I
good
just thought it was a
thing
bit boring.
It's like it's a lower barrier to entry.
That's why it's so popular.
Yeah, than
It's so much better than CrossFit, for
you know,
example, yeah.
like, 'cause I remember when I was young and impressionable, I got into CrossFit for about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And like, but again, I'd stopped playing rugby. I stopped playing rugby because I had an undiagnosed heart condition. I'd done CrossFit. I don't really know how that works, but yeah, that gives you an insight into how clever I was. When I was
Have you ever
younger.
been diagnosed with a heart condition?
Nah, I just
No.
didn't go back to the. No,
Right.
I'm fine.
You're alive.
I'm fine. And it's just like, again, the Olympic lifts, the skill elements of things, and that's what makes CrossFit CrossFit. I'm not saying
Yeah.
you should take it away, but I think like that would you'd love the competition side of CrossFit, but then it's like,
Yeah.
you're really going to be able to do like 15 snatches under fatigue. Like, you know, my technique's absolute dog shit. I'm not going to time to go to Olympic lifting coach, whereas Hyrox to me seems to be like more. I don't really know a great deal about it. Obviously, I just see lots of it.
Yeah.
And let's just touch on it briefly. I see some of the breakdowns of people's performances that they post. Fuck me, man.
I actually know what you're going to
Like, just say you lost.
Yeah.
Just say you didn't do well. Just
Yeah.
say you didn't train hard enough.
Yeah.
Like, wasn't my day today, guys. You know, I'd had
That's
my
interesting.
pre-workout 5 minutes too late.
Yeah.
Shut up.
There's a lot to be said for that, because the stats really don't lie in the cold light of day. And it's great that people are finding a competitive endeavour, but own your performance.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah,
I think it, like, I
Honestly,
think
because there's no nuance with sports like this. See, like sports like powerlifting and like even like athletics and stuff like that. Like, there's nuance in like more skill-based sports like football and rugby. You know, because the better team can lose, the better player can come off second best.
Yeah.
But seeing things like this, seeing powerlifting, who lifted the most weight?
Yeah.
Was it you?
Yeah.
No, you lost then.
yeah,
That's it.
it's not subjective.
Exactly. It's just, and Hyrox used to be the very same thing. It's like, this is what it is. Like,
Yeah.
it's very clear athletic output across these different disciplines.
Yeah.
Who can do it the fastest, who can do it the best, and that's it.
If Hyrox can build on how good it's been this year in terms of the marketing and the number of people taking part in it, hats off to it. I just hope it's not a flash in the pan, because I think if it's a gateway drug for people to get more into their fitness, be more competitive, amazing. But a lot of the people I see doing it are people that are already in the fitness space.
Do you know what I'd love about Hyrox? I've always thought, because they do the World Championships and they do the pro version, but the pros, it's just the same events and whatever else. I actually think it'd be amazing if the pro events did incorporate more complex movements. So it was like 1k run, 5 rope climbs, 1k run, 50 muscle ups. Like, I think that'd be phenomenal. I think it'd be a bigger spectacle for the pro athletes, because you're getting pro CrossFitters that are quitting CrossFit to go and compete in Hyrox, because there's a more promising
So
like
that says a
future
lot
in
for it. That says a lot for it.
So yeah, I think I think it can grow massively. Like, I think it is growing massively. The Glasgow one was packed. Like, everyone on my
Everyone
Instagram
spoke so highly of
was
it,
either
which I'll say
there
was amazing.
or at the 12-week peak event. But they were at one of 2 places. If you weren't there, I don't know where you were.
Oh yeah, what are you doing?
Exactly. What were you up
Where were
to?
you guys?
Get a grip.
You were birthing a child.
Number 7, Dubai.
Overrated.
Overrated.
I've got the most. I loved it, but overrated. I used to love it, and I actually, like, I loved it, and I loved it when I was the age of going out, partying, drinking, meeting girls, and that was my year in Dubai. And then me and Kirsty went back last October for a month, and honestly, like, we actually fucking hated it, and neither of us said we hated it until we were back about a month, and then we kind of talked. We were like, yeah, it was good. Like, we didn't want to say it was shit, because you kind of sound like an arse if you go, oh, I lived abroad for a month and it was shit, and people are like, you're a cunt, which is the truth. I am. But yeah, I think it's massively overrated. I think even actually, so I was speaking to an accountant recently, and he was talking about the amount of coaches, personal trainers moving to Dubai for tax relief. He actually broke down that most of them are getting next to no tax relief when you actually break down how much they're spending to set the company up, how much they're spending to escape Dubai in the summer because it's too hot, and they're going to live in Bali for 6 months and rent a villa in Bali and get flights to Bali and whatever else. And he broke down like all of the costs, and he's like, you'll maybe save a little bit of money. So I think for a lot of people, if you're going there for 5-6 years, you're going to earn like a ton of money in certain jobs. But things like coaching, from my experience, you're not going out there to be in some insane tax haven, and you also need to pay VAT on any clients that you're training back home, which is probably most of your clients.
That's such an interesting perspective, because for me, from a holiday destination, I think it's probably overrated now, but I think from a lifestyle perspective, depending on what you were going out there to do, I think it could be underrated. But actually, I'm going to get off the fence. I think it's overrated by the amount of people that are flocking out there and trying to sell you the dream, because as you say, you have to escape during the summer. When I go during the winter, and I'm going again next week, which I would still class as winter speaking, I'm gonna have a fantastic time. I'm gonna do work, I'm gonna train, I'm gonna podcast, I'm gonna socialise. I think the social life out there is amazing, as you said, David. And I say that as somebody that doesn't really drink very often at all either, but I've drank out there and I've gone to events sober out there, and it's pretty incredible.
There's a lot of opportunity. Like when I was there, I suppose the companies that I was exposed to when I worked for Project, when I was there, like there was cool things that we were doing that you don't necessarily get access to here. Like I think we worked with American Express, and we worked with all these big brands, and we were just fucking personal trainers. So I think there's some cool opportunities out there, of course. I just think like what people make it out to be is massively overrated. The summer alone is fucking hell on earth.
How many months are you talking?
Do you know what? 5, I'd say. Like you're talking from May, June, July, August, September. Yeah, 5. October starts to cool down. We went in October. The first week was hell on earth still. Humidity is horrendous. So it's like, cool, is it worth living somewhere that you really fucking don't like for 5 months of the year? I wouldn't have said so. I'd rather think somewhere was okay most, like all year, than be like, this place is amazing for half the year. Fuck that.
Yeah. I love spending time there, but I don't know what it's like to live there, so I think you were one of the people that was best qualified to address that as well. It's interesting because you say like you loved it when you were like in that going out phase. Like one of our mutual friends, Mike and Dan run their coaching business out there, and they don't live that lifestyle at all. They've got a family. They live in villas out in the Dubai Hills. They play golf. They run their coaching business, and they love it. Interestingly, the education system out there is really good as well if you're in the right schools, of course. Yeah,
I wouldn't want to bring my kids up there at all.
That's really interesting, because I've seen, so again, Dan's one of them, and Sook Sadu. Like he's been posting a lot of content about Dubai recently, and raising his family there and stuff. And like speaking to Dan like in person when I was over there filming a podcast with them, Dan said his daughter Isabella, he just said like could not imagine raising her back here now. It's like the level, like she just walks around the estate, the safety,
100%.
the
safest place on earth for kids,
the quality of education. Like he spoke about all of those things really, really highly, and Sook has echoed that. Sook's got 2 daughters. I think Ivy's in school. I think his other daughter is just born, but like he all speaks about in his content about the same things.
I think it'll be different. I've not got kids, so like the safety thing's a massive thing. It is like people walk about at 3 a.m. themselves. There's very little crime in that sense, or at least crime that's spoke about,
and they deal with it.
I bet they deal with it. I think you need to grow up so soft, and you're not exposed to anything like. I mean, I don't know. I've not got kids, but I just think. I'm not saying that I want my kids to go to some rough school, but I think there's an element of like you fucking learn a lot doing something like that as well. Yeah.
It's horses for courses at the end of the day, isn't it? And I find the place fascinating. I think it's on the up and up. I'll be interested to see how it continues to pan it. In the same way as Hyrox, will the hype continue?
It is mental how new it is as a place to live. Like when you look at what's there, you just it is insane what's happened over the last 50 years.
I'm a pretty energetic person, and when I'm pretty flat out, but when I'm there, I'm quite excited about the direction, because everything's like pushing you. Yeah,
totally. Which you've said that when you went, it was inspiring to see like the hugeness, the enormity of everything. It was. Everything's bigger.
Yeah, I've been twice, and loved both trips. Were amazing. I did get like that inspiration. The only thing I would say though, and this is probably just a personal thing, like I get way more. Like I've always get inspired when I go away on pretty much any holiday, but mainly city breaks. That's when I really get kind of. I'm talking about like work and creativity and all that. I always come back to loads of ideas and stuff. The inspiration like I felt in Dubai is absolutely nothing compared to what I felt in New York, or when I go to London. Because I just think it's that that history and that character to the city that's just a different level. But Dubai was still, I was still like walking around going, this place is pretty cool, there's stuff happening here, there's an energy about the place, like it is a really, really cool place. I think like if you were going out there for work and like you know, if you were meeting different people and trying to kick off different projects, I think you would be flying. I think you would just be like working all day and loving it. I could definitely see that, but yeah, I would still say the only other thing I would say about it, and this is, I probably don't know enough, it seems like things can change over there very quickly, and the laws are what the laws are. There's no gradual process of things coming in place. So as much as it's a tax haven and it's a haven for business right now, the ruling bodies could change that tomorrow.
I think already they're adding corporation tax in there.
Yeah, you know, they're scaling it in, and like you say, you can't argue there.
That's it.
No
that's like, for it. That's
and
what the laws are.
That's one of the big benefits.
It's fitting or fuck off. That's their culture. You know?
That's one of the benefits. Like if you cross us, then it's game over. Or you'll go to jail.
There's an attractive thing about it as well,
which is fair
for
enough.
The safety and for the these are the rules, and that's I respect that about it as a country.
It's got a lot more Western since I first went in 2016 though. Totally. Like even Ian met you in 2018, and when I went last year and I was telling him about what we were up to and some of the brunches and stuff like that, he was like, there's no way he would have got away with that, and I was like, it was just how it was by now.
My dad went to Dubai Sevens years ago.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, by the way.
He had to get taken to. I remember him telling me the story about getting taken to this pub in the middle of nowhere, and it was all like unmarked, and then he was going in, and they were allowed to have drinks and stuff, but obviously my dad and his rugby mates are there pissed, and they started to get a bit rowdy, and the bouncer was kind of over at them and stuff, and like that. He's always maintained that opinion about Dubai, but and then I say to him like, that's just completely different.
It's
now.
different
like,
now. You can
totally.
When I first went, you could only buy it in hotels or at like set bars.
I think still there's some rule in most places that it needs to be attached to a hotel if you're serving alcohol. Maybe changed a little bit more now, but when I was there in 2014, it was super strict on things. Like you could not live with anyone that you weren't married to.
Really?
You couldn't hold hands, you couldn't kiss. Like it's still kind of frowned upon to like show public affection, but people do it. Like stuff like that happens all the time, and it's like a slap in the wrist from the bouncer type thing. I
think it's interesting, and I think the people that I see pushing it the hardest are sometimes trying to tell themselves that it's amazing. Like so I'm like, my stories will be annoying over the next week or so whenever this gets released, because I'll be sharing how much I enjoy the place, but I'm not living there full time, so I'm not trying to convince everyone that it's amazing when I'm living there, because you're talking about the summer period.
I can't wait to see you dance again. That is my favourite thing from whenever you're anywhere.
When I'm steaming. Unreal. Anything that sometimes goes in the close friends.
Gravity.
What a place.
I've screen recorded that. I'll get that.
Number 8, Nando's.
Massively underrated.
Underrated.
Used to be overrated back in the day when everybody was mad for it, but see you go for Nando's now, menu's totally different, so many more things in the menu, super tasty, reasonably priced. Like I feel like it's like went through that like hype stage, and now it's just like solid tasty food every time you go.
That's exactly my thoughts on it. It's the most consistent. Like it's never going to be unbelievable, but it's always
absolutely
good.
not.
You know exactly what you're getting, because it's a franchise and it's a set standard, and it's much quote unquote healthier than a McDonald's or a Burger King or a KFC. You just go in, you sit down, you know what you're getting.
But also see if you're not, I know obviously it caught on because like obviously it was great for like tracking, and it was you say healthy, macro friendly, but see if you just want to go and have a really and you're not asked for any of that, you just want to have a tasty meal, you still have it's a great for like a pre-cinema dinner. Like I think it's massively underrated these days. Obviously back in the day when everybody was like chicken Nando's,
that was exactly what I was
every 2 minutes it was fucking annoying, but like underrated for me.
Chicken Nando's and that wee emoji
per
that was
year.
so annoying. Per year.
Me and Kirsty were talking about this because I was like, how many do you eat per year? I'd say I'm like 2. I'd say I'm 3 a month on average, sometimes way more, sometimes way less.
Deliveroo, or do you go and get it?
Nando's?
You're close
a month?
Aye.
Really?
Aye.
That's mad.
He's so close.
Is that a lot?
Yeah, it's quite a lot, yeah.
Oh, is it? Oh, I thought that was
I
like...
have like 3 a year.
Right.
Oh, really?
I'll get it delivered to the office. Me and Kirsty will get them if we're out and about. Me, and if I'm with any of the work pals and we were going somewhere, it's like just jump in there, it's easy.
Every fitness wanker likes it though, don't they?
Kirsty a lot. Like,
if you're out and about and you're like, well, just get a Nando's, you're going to say yes.
Yeah. I don't go that often, but like I do. Jill loves it. Jill loves that. They do like that sunset burger, and she's mad for the sunset burger.
And it's not even that high in calories. I think because I probably track my food for like 3 months of most years, and that's just, and I love to eat out, and it's like, that's easy.
Yeah.
I go there a lot for that.
Yeah, because you've got all these people going through the 12-week peak just now.
Yeah.
In the early weeks in particular, they can absolutely get away with And I know even slightly later on if push came to shove.
100%. Right up until if you can track it, you can track it.
Yeah.
Is it perfect? No. Is anywhere? No.
No, well, exactly. There's a big discrepancy. But yeah, I was going to completely agree that it went through the hype stage, cheeky Nando's and people checking in on Facebook and stuff like that as well, and it was insufferable. But now I think like you just go in, you know what you're after.
I still check in Facebook.
You would be so annoying on Facebook back in the day.
Yeah, I was.
It's just annoying on Instagram now.
Exactly as it is on
Repost
Instagram.
to Facebook.
Number 9, and this was at the request of Mr. Burns, Star Wars.
Overrated. Now, let me be clear here, right? I'm a massive Star Wars fan. Not to the extent where I go to the pictures with a lightsaber or anything like that, right? But
Just as Chewbacca.
Just as but I'm a massive Star Wars fan, right? Of the original films.
Yeah.
But the new films,
Original being just the first.
the original trilogy.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Not the
What about Anakin and stuff like that? And
it's decent.
That's what I grew up.
Yeah. See, I've got quite kind of I know obviously like see when you go into all the Star Wars dweebs that let this run their life, like they get really upset about the prequel series. But I remember being a wee guy and being so excited.
Got me into it.
And seeing remember the first time you saw Darth Maul and the black and red face, you're like and the double lightsaber. They're really, really prominent memories for me because I don't know what age I was.
So
I think
2001.
2001, so I'd have been 10. So I was 10 when it came out, and I remember being at the Showcase Cinema and just being so excited to see a brand new Star Wars. And obviously the original ones I kind of grew up on them, saw them, was fascinated.
On video.
But the new ones are just utter dog shit, and I'll tell you why, because this is
go broke
in my wheelhouse, right?
Go broke.
It's just lazy fucking storytelling. It's laziness, because here's the thing for me, right? Every single main character in any film, and listen, you can take any film or TV show. This isn't about like Star Wars. Like, look at fucking Legally Blonde, the complete opposite, right? Elle Woods. If you've not seen Legally Blonde, don't lie. We all know what Legally Blonde is, right? Great film, right? Elle Woods.
Who's the actor in that? Reese
Witherspoon.
I was going to hurt you a joke there.
I was going to say, kill somebody with a knife or with a spoon.
Love that joke.
Fuck's sake.
That is terrible, but we'll go
awful.
with it. Yeah.
Like, everybody has, every main character has some sort of struggle to overcome, and they fall down. And then you can look at it again, any series. I've just finished the last season of Billions, the latest season of Billions, sorry. Even in popular shows like Suits, Game of Thrones, all these films, whoever the central character is, the good guy, if you like, the good, the hero, they're always going to have a struggle. They're always going to try to do something and then get their arse handed to them. That's what happened to Luke in the original series, right? He stepped up, tried to fight Darth Vader, and get his arse handed to him. He gets slapped a bit on an empty track and gets his hand cut off, right? That's what happens, right? And then you come back, Return of the Jedi, and then he's been slapping people about, and he's a hero again. Yeah. And I just think they just completely ignored that in favour of, I don't know. I honestly don't know what's in favour of. Is it politics? Whatever? Is it some sort of deeper message that they're trying to get across?
Are you familiar with the Scottish YouTuber Critical Drinker?
Yeah.
So I'd love to have him on the show. I think that'd be really interesting. And he just despairs at the direction Hollywood's gone, and it's exactly what you were describing there. He was like, the female lead should still go through as the protagonist, go through the journey of learning. But it was very much, no, she's perfect as she is, and she'll just get to the point, and you just have to shut up and deal with that because you're a misogynist.
But it's really annoying.
It was like, oh wow, you are actually going that way.
But people get really short memories though, because there's been female protagonists forever. And they've went through struggles, and that's why they're like, one of my favourite films is Erin Brockovich. It's a phenomenal film, and Julia Roberts is the main character.
True Romance, it's another one.
But again, there's struggle there. There's failure. It's just, and it's again, there's more things in the story, specifically Star Wars, that's just lazy and it's quite patronising to an audience. Whereas they're just things that happen. They're just big. And again, I'm not sitting here as some sort of film critic, right? Yeah. But I know a bit about storytelling. It is a big part of my job, and it also is a hobby of mine to write my own fiction. And you just know you got to treat the audience with some level of respect. You're not just putting out something to complete idiots. They can put things together, and when something's happening in a story and there's just a big fuck off leap, people are just gonna be like, what is that? Or they break that fourth wall with some ham-fisted political message, and you're just like, oh, even if it's one you agree with, you still be like, this is jarring.
It's not what I signed up for. I didn't come and watch this to be politically inspired about a movement.
I know. Hey, the guy's got a lightsaber, mate. The guy's got a lightsaber. Why are you telling me about some cultural issue? He's got a lightsaber's a Wookiee next to him.
Yeah, stab him.
Exactly. Like move people about with the Force and like jump in an X-wing and use your laser guns all day long.
Yeah, that's what we're
Don't
after.
fucking break the fourth wall to give me some like ham-fisted message about something that's going on in today's culture. It's just infuriating, man.
Yeah.
Infuriating.
I agree. I found that latest trilogy really hard to watch.
There's also like 400 spin-off things of it now, eh?
Yeah,
They've
my
got, like, a
brother
character
watched.
in
What
that.
was the
They've
one
got-
on Boba Fett or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah,
Ian
awful.
watched that.
Do you know one that's quite good? The Rogue One, which isn't a spin-off series, it's a film. Rogue One is quite good. Solo, awful. Like, again, it's just like Disney have got their hands on it and they're just trying to churn out as much content as possible, I think, and they're just rinsing it for, and you can see the same kind of like mistakes, if you like, and all this, because one of the really good was The Mandalorian. That was the first season was actually pretty good in that, and it seemed to have some promise, and then the seasons went on and it was just the same stuff. And the things they do to the characters in Star Wars, just the final point on it, because I do get quite fed up about this, like Luke Skywalker and Han Solo were a massive part of my childhood, as a lot of people, like really like iconic characters, and what they done to those two characters in the latest season is just ridiculous.
Neutered them, really. Didn't they?
Yeah, and like Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker himself, said to Ryan Johnson in a kind of what do you call it? The reading of the script, he said, "I disagree with every single decision you have made for my character."
Yeah.
And that's Luke fucking Skywalker himself telling you that.
Yeah.
But obviously Ryan Johnson's a cement head that's fucking awful. Is his name Ryan Johnson? I think it is.
I couldn't tell you.
Can't remember. Director's name, but
Ryan Johnson. That's the Liver King.
That's the
Is that
longevity.
other thing?
It's also the longevity guy.
Yeah.
You know, the
So
kind
is I.
of see-through guy, ginger hair.
Yeah, he's Mental the
So
Vampire.
it is. It's the same name. That's weird. That is how you've got the same
Super
name.
weird. They
Aye.
both went viral like a year after one another,
Yeah.
probably.
That's mad. But anyway, I think that's.
Well, let's move on
overrated.
from Star Wars.
Yeah, sorry,
And Chris,
before I get-
Chris can lower his blood pressure, or maybe he can't because it's number 10. It's running.
So I think it's...
No, number 10's Five Guys.
Oh, we'll go with Five Guys then.
Sorry, you're supposed to skip that. Sorry, number 10. Running. Running.
What are we going, running
do you know
or Five
what?
Guys?
I'll just let the host tell us what one we're on. Instead
Let's
of just
go.
being-
Let's go with Five Guys. Overrated for me.
I have overrated.
overrated.
I just
no
don't
opinion.
like.
I like it, but it's overrated. It's too expensive. It's
Fucking
expensive. It's
extortionate.
extortionate for what it is.
Yeah.
I would say.
If I look at the number of people that share that to the story and Nando's, I'm kind of like, why would you just not go to Nando's every single time?
Because they wanted a burger.
But to get the Sunset Burger.
There you go.
Beef burger, that's a real. I don't count. I love a chicken burger, but chicken burgers ain't burgers.
Yeah.
Burger is beef.
Beef, yeah.
Or pork and beef.
Side note: Five Guys has a very, very interesting story of how it was founded and stuff. And I think he's been like the current CEO or somebody high up has been on a few podcasts telling the story. It's really interesting. You should check it out.
Do you know Shake Shack was founded as well? That's got a mad story.
No,
Shake Shack was.
Love
there was
Shake Shack, by the way.
So that
That's-
book I'm reading,
So
Unreasonable.
that's much better than Five Guys, in my opinion.
100%.
That's like come straight out you though. Nah, every Shake Shack I've had is
What about In-N-Out Burger? I'm going to get one of
that
them.
goes in
Dubai.
and out.
Oh, really?
No, I'm joking. I've not had that before.
I've never had that before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really good.
Wait, are you getting one in Dubai?
Yeah,
one in
Is there
Dubai,
is there
yeah.
one in Dubai?
Yeah.
In and out.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, see in America, you know, when they talk about all the burger chains, like,
Whataburger, that's good. Whataburger.
They're coasts, they're like area specific.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're state specific.
So on like the west coast, it's like I don't know. I'm probably saying this wrong.
Whataburger, they don't
It's like-
have in certain
They
states.
don't have
Yeah.
In-N-Out burger, so it's like almost like a kind of like state by state rivalry. Like who's got
California's
the
got
best?
In-N-Out. Yeah, I know
Aye,
that.
yeah, but I don't think I don't think New York and that do. I don't think they've got In-N-Out burger.
Right.
I don't think. I could be wrong, but yeah. Anyway,
Interesting.
There we go. There's some facts about burgers.
Running.
Running.
I'm going to go overrated purely on the current demand for everyone being a runner. And I'm again probably coming at this from a body composition standpoint because people choose or try to use running as a means to change their body composition. And in my opinion, it is suboptimal and largely useless to make dramatic changes to your shape. It's so popular right now, like insanely popular, and I think it's linked to the whole personal development world, and people are like, self-improvement, I need to do running, I need to do all this. I think it's overrated. I done like a 12-week block where the goal was to get better at running, and I got better at running, and I don't enjoy it.
Did you not get the positive feedback loop that people are talking about? The people are talking about the runner's high?
Nah.
I've never had that in my life.
Nah.
I remember being really.
I've had that running down a hill, doing a trail run before, and I was like, oh, that's amazing.
I've
And
never had that before.
I was speaking to Nico Carrillo, you know him?
Yeah.
Thai boxer. I was speaking to him today, and I like mentioned something about trail run, like running down a hill recently, and he's like, it's like flying, innit? And I was like, and then he went, it's the closest thing you can get to flying, and I was like, well, being on a plane maybe is, but like as a human being, like obviously you can do these wingsuits and stuff. I was like, he's actually like, he's right, because like I've done trail running before, and that is a proper high, because you're so fucking laser focused on not ruining your ankles, and you're toppling down these hills.
You're in
That's
flow.
I love that, to be fair. I should probably do that a bit more. Running in general, I think it's overrated, but I'm looking at it from a body composition standpoint. People don't, like, a lot of people don't use it for that as well. I think
it had its renaissance at the start of C19 lockdown.
Yeah.
Remember Run 5, Donate 5, Share 5 or something like that?
Yeah.
And people were really getting into it. I ran a 5K.
charity thing, you wouldn't have done it.
Give to charity.
Begins at home, I heard. I did a 5K at that point, and I never continued it, and I think most people are like that. But now it seems like everyone's buying the
fucking vests.
the vest, what are they called, vapor flies?
I'm just gonna call out Ryan and Dale right now. I went a run with my best mates when did we go? 3 nights ago. An 8k, right? An 8k is not endurance, it's a short run. Ryan, the two of them have just bought every bit of running apparatus you can buy. They showed up with everything represent 24/7. These tights,
a
UVU hat, these extortionate running shoes. Ryan, sorry if you're listening, showed up with a vest, one of the running vests with a water bottle in it. I was like, you're doing 8k. Dale whips out a carb gel
A mad camel sack?
for an 8k. So love you boys, but you have jumped
This is
on
my
that
kid as well.
Brilliant.
You're being swept along, and if you continue doing that, fair play. And because I think anything that you do, you should try and work towards a form of mastery in it, and that's just how I'm wired, and it's how a lot of people that listen to a podcast like this one are wired. You want to get do not try and achieve mastery in a masturbator. Do not try and master that, but I think you want to pursue progress in something. Progress happiness, as you often say, David, or Tony Robbins might say it too.
That was me to say.
And it was David that said it.
And these things are, if they're flash in a pan, same as Hyrox, then you're not giving yourself the opportunity to get the really like best parts of these things from it. And I think running at the moment, where people are just diving in, buying all the gear, maybe have no idea, if it's here today, gone tomorrow, I think it's overrated. If you find your passion for it and it gets you training and exercising more and looking after yourself, amazing. Equally, you've got guys like Goggins who use it as their vehicle for dealing with their demons.
I've never got that either. Maybe it's because I don't like necessarily pure need a mental escape, but I've training in general, cool. I've had some gym sessions that, you know, people say like that was my therapy. Like I've never
I don't get that,
I've
man.
never felt like that, but like equally maybe
I've used it to shift my mood. So I've gone and I've trained, I've got a pump, I've felt good, and I've gone back to a work block and been like, right, I've got away from whatever I was thinking about before, let's get into this. But it's not it wasn't therapy.
I've never felt that. Do you know one thing that is underrated about running is sprinting?
I was about to say that you were going to say that, sprinting.
Sprinting, especially as you get older.
Yeah.
Because I think
Good for testosterone.
And retaining muscle mass.
But also, you're retaining. But also, do you know what else is coordination? Yeah. Which is something that not a lot of people talk about. But I think, like, obviously I've done a lot of sprinting in my time from like sports and stuff, and done a lot of like sprint focused training. Oh mate, my sprinting was so I didn't get slower. Like that's I'm very honest about that. Was that?
Were you super slow?
No, I wasn't slow. No, but I've always been obviously a bit
120 kilo.
A bit of a unit.
So let's put it into context. But yeah, I think that sprinting is massively underrated, and I think like what pisses a lot of people off is when you find out what, like, I was going to say, like, proper sprint training is. There's a long rest period in between it. You know, you're really resting. You know, depending on the distance, but you're talking like 3 to 5 minutes depending on the distance you're running. But like from a coordination standpoint, as you get older, you know, coordination is massive, because as you get older and you falls become a greater risk to your health. So I just feel like there's a lot of benefits to sprinting. So working it into your and it doesn't have to be quote unquote optimal, because you're not necessarily trying to get faster. So like the ideal conditions for sprinting, you know, you're going to be fresh. You know, you're going to be going in there. You're say like get a 48-hour rest period, you know, from any arduous lower body training, and then you go in fresh and you do a sprint workout. But you're not a pro athlete. Just do it after your upper body session.
I do think
like that kind of thing.
As much as I think it's overrated, I'm coming at it from a very specific angle. I think it should be something that's incorporated in most people's lives, or some form of cardio, like steady state.
Definitely, yeah.
And I never used to that until like probably the last 6 months. Don't get me wrong, I've always done bouts of cardio at certain periods in my life, but I think everyone should be doing it. And there's like run clubs popping up like everywhere. Like Kaizen, like smashing it right now. Like
very much linked to Hyrox. It's not competitive, it's community. Because if you're all doing Hyrox, you kind of form together, you do simulations together. The run clubs are the same, because people are starving for connection.
Yeah.
That I can't remember what podcast this was on. I don't know if it's been released, but I was talking to someone about like connection and loneliness, and somebody asked in a solo episode if I would do meetups, and I was like, surely you don't want to do a podcast meetup?
Yeah.
And I was like,
Not with you anyway.
Yeah,
No.
well, mad. I was
I'm
like,
not coming.
I said, yeah, of course not. You have to be
Did they
paid
mean
to
meet
turn
ups
up.
with us? Yeah, we'll come.
Yeah,
We'll come.
exactly. But people, like, I was like, just DM me if you'd be interested in that. But I think the entry point to that would be like a Telegram or something like that.
Yeah.
Like 80 plus people been like, oh, I would want like some form of like networking with other people that listen to this
Yeah.
podcast. And I was
That's
like,
great, man.
that's wild.
If I look at like the 12-week peak, which is largely the only thing that we do once a year that has a community, like we've had 380 people like register for all of the events we're in. Bear in mind, there's only 580 people doing the program, so like a huge majority are like wanting to come, and it's like it's how it
Meet
works.
like-minded people
It's
as
how it
well,
works,
though.
yeah, and it's a huge selling point from us from a program perspective. And it is like, it's not even like bullshit marketing. Like, see the connections people are making it. Things like the 12-week peak and things like run clubs and things like, I think most people meet new friends through getting pissed, and I think actually having something where you're meeting new friends through doing something positive can only be a good thing.
Society's moving away from that.
Oh,
And I
yeah,
think if
definitely.
running's a
Yeah.
vehicle for that, then
Yeah.
crack on.
Absolutely. That's why sports is such a underrated thing as well, I think, for adults. I mean,
Yeah,
like,
totally,
like find
totally.
a sport to go and whatever one you want to play. Obviously, I've played rugby my whole life, but like
Yeah.
the amount of times I've seen guys come down to the rugby club that like have just moved to the area, and within a week
Best
they've got
pals.
a bunch of mates,
Yeah.
and they're out every weekend, and they're out the house twice a week for training, and they're all day Saturday with the boys, and they're just having the time. Like, we had a boy last season, chap the changing room door. It was pissing the rain. It was some mad guy from South Africa called Simon. And he's like,
Yeah.
I'd like to play some rugby. You're just like, aye, come on in, mate. And then
Yeah.
he's like, I've not got any kit. And we're like, right, cool, we'll give you. And then he got kits. So that's like the benefits of like finding those little pockets of like-minded communities and stuff like
And
that.
that's,
People
and that's
just-
missing when we're all
it's
behind our
huge.
screens.
Yeah.
Totally. And do you know what? I'm really shite at realising the value in that, because I have always been a bit of a lone wolf kind of type, and I work on my own. I'm really enjoying my own company.
Yeah.
But when I go to things with like-minded people, I'm just like, this is class. I should do this more. Then I forget.
You just don't seek it.
I just don't seek it out. I just don't seek it out. Yeah.
And then you stay with your same little group.
Yeah, same little group. Yeah, exactly. Or stay in my office with the curtains
Door
shut.
shut.
The curtains shut. Seeing the copy cave.
Blinkers on.
Blinkers on. Noise cancelling.
Hermosi said we shouldn't have any windows in our offices, so that's becoming a
That's
thing.
one thing that I'm like, nah.
Not having it.
Shut up, man. He needs to take a day off, man.
Next up, based on something you brought up already, David, is intrant workout nutrition.
Overrated. No, unless you're training for over 2 hours, which the vast majority of people are not. Unless you're training with a huge intensity, which the vast majority of people are not. You don't fucking need intra-workout nutrition. You need to fuel yourself appropriately pre and post. But yeah, I don't think I can't actually think of anyone that I personally know that needs intra-workout nutrition.
Unless you're doing an
Fergus
endurance
Crawley,
event. Fergus Crawley, there you go.
because he does insane events. Other than him,
The people taking carb gels on 8k runs.
yeah, Dale, what are you doing, man?
I used to.
Dale. Oh.
Actually, to be fair, in his defence, he had it in his pocket and he's like, I'm going to try it. And I was like, why have you got that with you?
Do you know what that
How
reminds
many
me of?
grams of carbs is it out of interest?
40 or something.
Yeah.
Anybody that's listening to this just now that's seen The American Office and Dwight Schrute, is that I think that's the only thing I can think of right now, because Dwight Schrute walking about the office with carb gels and his camel sack thing on. That's Dale. What were we talking about there?
Intra-workout nutrition.
I used to train at the same time as a guy who used to eat a 6-pack of petit filou and smoke a joint during his workout.
That is brilliant.
Inside he would smoke
They would go outside and smoke a joint and come back in.
in the rest periods.
Aye. And he used to like say train.
What kind of shape was he in?
He's actually in quite decent shape, but he was like obviously a lunatic, because I've just told you he ate
Yeah.
6 petit filou during his workout, so
Yeah.
I think you can
Or a
infer
tap-
from that
a tap out t-shirt.
what kind of guy we're talking
Yeah.
about. No, it was like a mad West Side fuckboy, so
Right,
like he
West Side
loved like
barbell.
West Side barbell, and like he would like have fucking bands set up and all that, and like his workouts would
The
take
earthquake
like
press.
4 hours and all that, and then like he would just chew the ear off you about Louis Simmons every chance he got. But I just always remember him coming in, he's got the same rack and pull out a 6-pack of petit filou and just start chomping on them.
I'd be
And
sick.
like,
Yeah.
aye, I mean petit filou.
Petit Filou's marketing was, they make you bigger and stronger. The wee
Yeah.
German guy,
but
wasn't
for,
it?
but for children's
Aye.
lunchboxes,
Aye.
not
Yeah.
for powerlifters
You
in the
ever
gym.
remember Rich Piana's
8-hour arm workout? Yeah.
That had intra workout. I'm sure like
Did it?
everything you done, it was like a protein shake and a banana. So like every cycle of it you done, you had
Yeah.
to keep doing
And
that.
some trim
Actually
balls.
makes sense. It was fucking 8 hours.
Aye, 8 hours, aye, exactly. Aye.
But yeah, most people don't need intra workouts unless you're training for over maybe over 90 minutes, but over 2 hours certainly I'd introduce something. But again, most people don't train that hard that they need something like that.
Yeah, and people
IMO.
maybe having like Lucozade during training as well, thinking like, oh, it's electrolytes. You're like,
Yeah, to be fair, something like that that's so low, like it's so easy to digest. Like I could, like I've used things like that before, largely because I like the taste of them. But something like that's fine, like really simple sugars. But largely, I don't think people need them.
yeah, if you're digesting anything that's too heavy, you put your gut into fight or flight.
Yeah.
When you're meant to be focusing on trying to be in a solid state.
I remember, this is just another random story about pre-workout nutrition. I remember we were going to play a cup final last season and we stopped off at the Green Welly, which is, I said that as if your audience knows
I
what
was
Green
like,
Welly is.
or me.
Or you. It's like on the way up to the, it's like just a cafe on the way up to Oban, because that's where the final was. And two of the boys had two scones and jam with cream and a roll and sausage before the game.
How close before the game?
Like,
Half an hour?
close, man. Not half an hour, but
Right.
like within 2 hours of kick-off. Within 2 hours
Some
of
people
kick-off.
can just eat and, like, I'm like that. I can eat and digest and train. Like I can eat.
I can't do that.
So no, I could eat like a curry and then
Really? Could you?
half an hour later I could probably
That's
train.
impressive.
So I could eat and train. I
Yeah.
couldn't eat and play.
Right.
I couldn't
okay.
eat that kind
different,
of
it's
food
different.
and play. No,
Yeah.
no way, man. I
But then
would
you,
spew
that's
my
also
ring.
you're getting hit, so it's not like if
Yeah.
I'm doing squats.
What
I'm
about
just
when you
squatting.
were doing karate, for
Sport?
example?
Nah, I wouldn't eat close to that actually. But that was just out of like, not for any reason. I just didn't do it. But I can eat and then run. I could eat like a proper meal and then do a run half an hour later.
I think I could do that, yeah. I don't think that would bore me too much, but I couldn't eat and play. No way,
Yeah.
man. I'd spew my ring. Aye.
Next up, saunas.
Overrated for me.
Overrated,
them,
but I
but
also
then-
don't. Yeah, I enjoy it,
I
but
enjoy
I
them,
couldn't.
but-
I actually couldn't tell you many of the benefits. I know there are plenty of them, but I actually looked up. I was in Palmedy Starbucks the other day, and there was a sauna, like I don't know what brand. I can't remember the brand, but I was like, that's mad that that's just there. Like, it was a sauna shop. I was like,
Oh,
how
right.
fucking random. And Kirsty had mentioned 2 weeks ago, she's like, we should get a sauna for the back door. And I was like, I wonder how much saunas are. It's good, that'd be quite cool. Like,
Did you go in the shop?
no, I just went on their website and there were 25 grand, and I thought, fuck that. Like,
Business expense.
mental,
Biohacking.
25 grand in a sauna. They have these portable ones that you can put on caravans, take to be like cool as fuck. Like the branding was amazing, really cool looking company, but 25 grand to get a sweat on, fuck that.
Yeah, for me the biggest benefit has been getting into a parasympathetic state and switching off.
Yeah.
You can't take you can take your phone.
I just go
in,
over
but
a
you
hot
shouldn't take your
bath.
phone in.
It's largely the same thing.
Do you
And I
feel-
have a lot of hot baths.
Do you? What, a hot bath?
The benefits of them, to be fair, you need to have a very hot bath to get the similar benefit from a sauna, but again, Huberman prescribes, sorry. Either one of those are a very similar effect if you get the bath hot enough, but
Do you give
Fuck.
yourself a big quiff for the bubbles
I do actually.
instead of a beard because you've got a beard but you're getting hair?
I do, or I did.
Style your quiff.
Yeah, I find the saunas interesting because it's a chance for me to get off my phone as well.
Oh, right, okay.
Oh, I'll take my phone in. I have seen people do that and I'm like, what the fuck
That's
are
an
you
addiction.
doing?
That's an
take
addiction.
take 5 minutes off.
Anything that allows you to get a bit of a break and switch off, I think is
That's
good-
my issue
good
with a
for me.
bath, because I quite literally go in a bath to go on my phone sometimes, because I'm like, right, I can clear my messages.
Well, that's helpful. You've done it consciously at least.
Yeah.
Whereas I think for me, if I'm going in the sauna, I'm trying to relax, unwind. Obviously, there's an element of discomfort as well that you sit through, which is helpful to expose yourself every now and then.
There is like a who's got the biggest balls, isn't there? If you go into a sauna and
We were
somebody's...
speaking about this the other week. We were
Yeah,
in on
yeah,
a
I'm not leaving first.
We were on a Sunday evening, and if somebody comes in after you, you're like, I'll see if I can like wait it out before
Yeah.
he leaves.
Yeah.
And it's like toxic masculinity, but like
The other guy doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't even know what's happening.
Yeah, I know.
I'm beating him.
there is no
Some old dude.
there is no competition, but he's feeling engaged with it. But yeah, for me, I think they're overrated if you think it's going to radically change the game for you. But for me, for like me switching off, I really like have valued it in the last little while as well.
I would never associated the sauna with switching off.
And it's good social as well. Like, so David Lloyd is probably like a good group of us that will go at different times. That
Ooh, sauna
you can
club.
catch up. Exactly that.
Oh, do
we
you
don't have a name
sauna?
for it. We don't have a name for it. You've
want to go
ruined
to the
it. Yeah,
sauna?
you've ruined it. We don't call it that, unfortunately. Next up, mobility workouts.
Overrated, man.
Yeah, well,
So overrated.
What would you do for your mobility?
just get stronger.
Just get stronger and lift full range of motion.
Through full range, yeah.
No, like there's some movements that you can do, obviously, and I honestly do think it's more of like a placebo effect. Like I do certain like mobility drills, if you like, that kind of make my hips feel looser. Whether they are or not,
Before
I don't
you
know.
train?
Just before I train, it's more of a warm up than anything. But I'm never going to take. So see if I've got I used to do a lot of mobility workouts. They take about 20 minutes. you are far better off jumping on an assault bike, my personal preference, and doing 20 minutes zone 2 cardio. Like in terms of an ROI for your time, like obviously, listen, you can, if you enjoy it, do it. But I just think they're massively overrated in terms of like
kind of convoluted routines.
Yeah, and then it you know what, it just gets silly. You know, if you're watching some guy being like, right, now we're gonna like get out a club and swing a club about. Like, what are you doing? Why are you swinging a club? Grow up, man. Like, what
you've got a big thing on this. What are they called? Onyx or something like that?
And it's like a mace. It's
Marcus Aubrey's brand on it.
Yeah, do you know what annoys me about it? It's like because then it leads into like these flow workouts. It's like, we're going to do a flow, so we're going to do a row, and it's like this like mace, and it's got like a gorilla on the top of it or something like that. And it's like, we're going to do a barbell row, and then we're going to do a squat, and then we're going to do a bicep curl with the same weight. How can that possibly be doing anything for you? If you can squat something and also bicep curl it, one of those things ain't adding up. And I don't know, I just think like you don't get a big ROI. I don't know if you've seen that with your like clients, and I think like if you've got mobility issues, then I think there's way better ways to get around it while getting a bunch of other benefits. Rather than just pure mobility.
I do about 5 minutes before every session.
Yeah,
that's just kind of warm up, isn't it? I mean, that's I think it's more like a standalone workout. If you're saying I'm going to get half an hour to do mobility work, like I think that's a complete waste of time.
Unless one of your pastimes is yoga or something like that.
I think it's overrated, and I think warm up sets are underrated. I actually think spending more time getting good at the movements is underrated. So like a big part of like what we'll do with a lot of people ask us when they sign up to any programs, can you send me like a stretch workout or something to help my flexibility? And I'm like, where are you inflexible? One, they never know. They're like, I'm just tight. I'm like, cool, where are you tight? My hamstrings. I'm like, right, well, cool, show me an RDL, perfect range of movement, whatever else. I'm like, you're not tight, like you're fine. You're probably just weak, like you're probably weak in that area.
In the length and range with the weight.
Yeah, 100%. And I think like for a lot of people they're like, but my squat depth is pish. I'm like, you're just pish at squatting. Like it's nothing to do with actual mobility right now. Like you've just not done very many squats. You're naturally going to be shit at it.
But just see with that though, like, just raise your heels. Yeah, that's my like just get a wedge under you. Yeah. Like you don't have. I remember I messed myself up so much because I read the Supple Leopard book back in the day, and the big thing in that was you must have your feet facing completely forward.
I cannot squat like that.
Right, dead straight forward, and then grip the floor and create torque at your hips. And I was just like, and the thing is, I was doing a powerlifting program at the time, so like I was battering myself with like volume, and it was like Lane Norton's program, so it was like squatting 3 days a week, deadlifting twice, benching 3 times, and I was trying this dumbest fuck technique, and like I've got perfect range of motion for a squat when I've got my feet turned out a little bit and my gait's a little bit where stance a bit wider. So I just feel like for people that are really suck at it, you're probably going to get a higher ROI. And by the way, I'm not a coach, so you know, sue me. I retired one. I just think you're going to get a higher ROI rather than do mobility work. Why don't you just do a squat with your heels raised and get used to that movement under load, and then you can eventually, if you need to, take those wedges away, and you've got all this experience under the bar, or even a goblet squat. There's going to be way more carryover, isn't there, rather than being like, oh look, I've been drilling my ankle mobility for 3 weeks now, and then it's like, okay, well, you're probably not going to be able to squat a bar on your back, or you know, you're just going to be all over the shop. Like
you haven't exposed yourself to what you need to.
You've not. The stimulus isn't there. I think it all comes back to stimulus.
And mobility stems largely from weakness though. Like people that think they're super immobile, like I can't move this, can't do that. I'm like, well, you're really weak at this specific thing. Get a bit stronger at that. Like me and Adam have spoke about that at length as well. We done a kind of mini, it wasn't a podcast, but we spoke on I think it was an Instagram live actually, about like not how useless stretching is, but the low return on that versus please just go and get strong in different movement patterns.
Get strong through different movement patterns in different ranges of motion, and you'll probably find that I can now hit depth because my hamstrings can handle the load at the bottom.
The one thing I will say is, see in terms of like different movement planes, so many movement planes get neglected in training. So that's why part of my warm-up's always like Cossack squats, and I do them like
in the sagittal plane.
You're just got to move in different, because I think that's probably when people start doing that, they'll probably see a big ROI as well. And like what I mentioned before, like things like sprinting to improve your coordination, even a little bit of jumping here and there. I'm not saying you have to train like a professional athlete, but these things can be worked in fairly easily. And the carryover you see to other movements that really matter to you is, you know, if you're training for body comp, part of your warm up can involve a little bit of jumping, little bit of movement in different planes. So when it comes to you like loading up a leg press and it's like your top set and you're going for it, it's like you've got that full range of motion, you feel comfortable and you feel strong.
I've done a bodybuilding style of training similar to you for 15 years, whatever else. And more recently, I think it was probably tail end of last year, I signed up to work with a coach, and it was quite literally, I was like, I think I just want to move, and I just want to do different movements. I was like, I want to learn new things, want to do new things, and any sort of tightness or what I thought was weakness or what I thought was immobility that I had or thought I had is gone. And I've done zero
quickly?
stretching initially. So like I always had really tight scapulas. Like I thought I had really bad overhead movements and really bad, or like it felt like that.
Yeah.
That was pretty quick. That was like 6 weeks. And like I'd done some fairly different movements, like sitting in the bottom of a squat and doing a shoulder press. Like that is honestly fucking brutal, by the way, if you ever try it. But just moving in different like planes of motion, planes of movement, and also just doing things with a bigger range of movement. So like in a seated row, for example, you're I don't know about now, but you have always been very like picture perfect form. But see, actually just allowing your scapulas to move and actually working to that range of movement. Yeah, and actually use
You like round at the eccentric.
full ROM roll are phenomenal.
Yeah,
and like
you feel great.
ever since doing that, I'm like, wow, I feel really fucking good.
Another thing I've done a lot of as well is like end range isometrics.
Yeah.
So like getting into a deep lunge and like hold it for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Just stay there, because again you're really getting a lot of work into like your tendons and your joints around there, you know, like end range dips. So just like go in as deep in a dip as you possibly can. Still stay active, you know, don't just flop into it.
That is technically flexibility.
Yeah, and stay there for again like build up to it, and even like dead hangs from the bar, phenomenal things like that'll I would honestly say, see if you feel up like tight and stuff, hang for a bar for a minute. You might not be able to do it, but hang for a bar as long as you can and come off, shake yourself off. Once the kind of initial kind of lactics out, you'll feel great.
Peter Attia, you know, the
longevity.
Yeah, one of the biggest things for longevity is like how
it's your grip strength.
Grip strength on a dead hang is one of the biggest signs of like you're going to live longer.
It's a huge predictor,
which is mental.
That in marriage.
Really, when you think about it, that in marriage, you and your wife.
I can hang for 10 minutes and we'll have to have 100.
I've got one more that I want us to wrap up on, and it's very fitnessy as well, and it's nasal breathing, which has gained popularity.
I actually can only breathe through one of my nostrils.
Was that an injury from karate?
Nah,
or?
I had what was the operation? Not a nose job, because my nose is fucking huge, but
you've had your teeth done, is that next?
That's next, yeah. Then here. then calves.
He's gonna be a new man.
Yeah, I can only breathe through one nostril, so I've tried a lot of the nasal breathing techniques. Like I've taped my mouth when I've slept. I've used the tape before it was popularised. Actually, it was Eugene TL.
I used to in Dubai. Yeah.
Ganbaru used to have them, and then I remember wearing it. Everyone was like, "What the fuck is that?" And then 2 years later, Hormozy starts wearing them, and everyone has them on.
Yeah.
That doesn't have problems breathing. They are quite literally to open up your nasal passages for people that have problems breathing. They're not. Like that is what they're for. They're not really for anything else. So I'm always laughing at these people that are, I can breathe fine. I'm like, why the fuck are you wearing that? There's little to no benefit. Anyway, nasal breathing. What's the book called? Is it Breathe?
Yeah,
I think it is Breathe. Yeah, I've not actually read it. I've listened to a summary of it. That's how fucking lazy I am.
But did you take much from it?
Tons of data on like why you should do it. There is quite a lot, but
do you have it built into your routine? I know Mr. Burns does.
When I'm doing NSDR, I try to start breathing through my nose, and then 5 minutes later I'm like so no, because I can't actually do it because it's such a conscious thing for me, and I actually don't get much airflow through my nose, so I find it really difficult. I've done some conditioning whilst only you've been doing that, yeah?
That's what I was about to bring up.
Yeah, I've done that, and fuck me, that is hard. And it is great for like regulating pace, because like Tom, my coach, would always say, you know, run. He wouldn't actually say like, here's the pace I want you to do. He says run whilst nasal breathing and see what pace that is, because he says you'll be slow or slower. Yeah,
and that's exactly why I do it, is to make sure, because I know when I breathe through my nose, so like I'll do like 2, sometimes 3 zone 2 sessions every week. But you know, it's like it's just like it's actually quite hard to pace yourself, and I can't be arsed with like a heart rate monitor. You know, I'm not really big on tech for fitness. It's just not really my thing. So I'd rather just have something that I know is pacing me properly. So like when I'm on the assault bike, like nasal breathing only, I know for a fact like I'm in that zone 2 area. And then if I start, because I used to really struggle with it, and I'd feel like I'd start to be breathing through my mouth. You know, I literally felt like I was like suffocating. And that's when I knew I was kind of knocking the arse out the pace too much. So yes, a really good tool, I would say in that regard. I don't know too much about like the performance benefits or anything like that.
There's a lot
I know
about
about the performance benefits of zone 2 cardio, and if that helps keep you there, then
100%. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of it changing the structure of your face and your jawline and things like that as
I've
well.
seen before and afters, and it appears to check out.
Yeah, same with these, even these jaw, seen these balls people chew on. To
Yeah.
Do you know when my page
Apparently
first,
there's some merit on those,
so
genuinely.
when my page first grew on Instagram, that was one of the first like collabs that I got offered, and I was like, don't be ridiculous, that's absolutely mad. But if you train any muscle to some extent, then it should hypertrophy in some perspective. But I don't know if it's a muscle, but I've had quite a prominent jaw most of my life, but I don't know.
So is it, I've seen the balls.
So
It's
that's
like
for
a
people
gag.
that have a jaw like that, and then they chew them,
sunk in.
and
And then I've seen the gum.
yeah,
There's like a real, you know what I mean, like
a solid
like
gum.
solid gum that you're like, you know,
Yeah.
it's like 15 times stronger than training
Yeah.
or something like that. So I don't know. I've just seen the adverts for them and all the guys giving it, you know, showing off the jolly and everything. But I don't know.
They just lost 10 pounds.
Yeah.
Well, that's a huge factor, isn't it?
Yeah.
But your nasal breathing, Chris, is designed around performance.
Yes, absolutely. Just building like zone 2 cardio is just like one of the most overlooked. And do you know why people don't do it? And it's nothing. It's
boring as
boring.
fuck.
It's boring.
Yeah.
Like so. Like I have.
What can you do during that? You can hold a conversation, can't you? That's what
Yeah,
it
you can-
says.
yeah.
Conversational pace is what it should be.
Hold a conversation, or like we say, like breathe through your nose, or like be able to hold a conversation.
Could you get
with
it from
somebody, but-
walking?
No.
Nah.
You need to be silent.
No, you could if you're really unfit.
If you
Great point.
Yeah, if you are massively unfit, definitely. But like for me, it's like on the assault bike, and I do find it boring, and like I've got maybe again.
Do you just listen to something?
I've either sometimes I watch things like that's the thing is like it's not something I can get kind of up for a workout because it's like I enjoy this, like, you know, I'm looking forward to this. This set or whatever. I can't get up to just sit on an assault bike, so it's like sometimes I watch stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe that's a reflection on addicted to phones or attention spans. And you're probably right. But I would, if it's the choice between the two, it's like, I'm still going to get the benefits of zone 2 cardio. And if I've got a show on, or like even like a podcast or something to get you through.
One of the big time management hacks that I've learnt over the years is bundling. Put two things together.
Yeah.
And those two things aren't in contrast. In fact, they marry quite nicely. So let's
Just
crack on and do it.
podcast and catching up with friends.
Yeah.
Wonderful, David.
I'm doing right now, I'm bundling.
Exactly that. We were due a catch up, weren't we? But gents, I've had tremendous fun. I'm sure the listeners have as well. If they aren't already connected with you, where should they head towards?
Instagram dhat_MTN. I also have a fantastic email list. I don't know how you get there, but you just go on Instagram.
Link in bio.
Link in bio.
Who writes those emails?
I don't know, man. I don't know, but he knows what he's talking about anyway. You can find me at Savvy Scholar. I always get nervous to say this because the first time I was on here, I said
Savvy Scholar?
No, it's at Savvy Scholar Chris.
It's linked in the show notes anyway.
Yeah, it's at Savvy Scholar Chris, and then I've got an even better email list than David.
Yeah, right, his.
With his Alpha Smart.
Yeah, that's where you'll find me. Instagram.
Wonderful stuff. Thank you very much, gents, and thank you to the listener. I'll be back to speak to you all again very, very soon.